Welcome back to Mythos Amit Raj. I'm Amit, your host, and this is episode 4 of our journey through ancient Philippines. Over the past 3 episodes, we've explored forgotten kingdoms, traced migrations across oceans, and uncovered 47,000-year-old mysteries. But today we're talking about something that literally glitters. Today we're talking about gold. Not just any gold, we're talking about some of the finest goldwork ever created in ancient Asia. This is the story of why early Chinese traders called the Philippines Luzon of the Golden Sands, and why Spanish conquistadors couldn't believe their eyes when they first saw Filipino gold craftsmanship. April 1981. Workers are dredging sand from a riverbed in Surigao del Sur, Mindanao. It's routine work. They're looking for construction materials. But then their shovels hit something hard, something that doesn't belong in river sand. They pull it up, wash off the mud, and suddenly they're staring at gold, pure, gleaming gold, intricate jewelry, statues, ornaments covered in detailed craftsmanship. At first, they have no idea what they've found. Some pieces get sold, some get melted down, a tragedy that archaeologists still mourn today. But eventually, word reaches the authorities and archaeologists rush to the site. What they discover changes everything we thought we knew about ancient Filipino civilization. Over 4 kilograms of pure gold artifacts, necklaces so intricate they require magnification to appreciate, statues of Hindu-Buddhist deities with details so fine they rival anything from India or Java, rings, bracelets, and ornaments that demonstrate mastery of techniques like granulation and filigree, techniques so difficult that even modern jewelers struggle to replicate them. This was the Surigao Treasure, and it proved, beyond any doubt, that ancient Filipinos weren't just using gold, they were masters of it. Today, we're diving into the golden age of Filipino craftsmanship. The Surigao Treasure. Let's talk about what was actually found in Surigao, because these artifacts are absolutely stunning. The collection includes over 100 individual pieces, though the exact number is disputed because some items were lost or sold before archaeologists could catalogue everything. What survives today is housed in the Ayala Museum in Manila, and if you ever get the chance to see them in person, take it. Photos don't do them justice. The most spectacular pieces are the golden statues. There's a figure of a Hindu deity, possibly Garuda, or a related figure from Hindu-Buddhist mythology, depicted with incredible detail, feathers, facial features, ornate clothing. Every element is carefully crafted. The figure is barely a few inches tall, but the level of detail is extraordinary. Then there are the necklaces, multiple strands of gold beads, some with intricate granulation. That's a technique where tiny gold spheres are fused onto a surface to create patterns. This technique requires incredible skill because the temperature has to be exactly right. Too hot, and the gold melts into a blob. Too cool, and the spheres don't fuse. Ancient Filipino goldsmiths mastered this perfectly. There are rings with detailed engravings, some showing what appear to be religious or mythological scenes. Bracelets with twisted wire designs. Earrings so delicate they look like they'd weigh nothing. And ceremonial items whose exact purposes we can only guess at. Perhaps used in rituals, perhaps markers of status and rank. When archaeologists analyzed these pieces, they dated them to around 1000 CE, give or take a century. That places them in the same period as the Laguna Copperplate Inscription we discussed in episode 1. This was the height of ancient Filipino civilization. connected to regional trade networks, producing world-class art and accumulating significant wealth. But here's what's most important: the craftsmanship. Spanish accounts from the 16th century mention that Filipino goldsmiths were so skilled that the Spanish immediately recognized their value and sent them to work in Mexico. These weren't primitive craftspeople learning from Europeans. These were masters teaching techniques to the colonizers. So why gold? Why did ancient Filipinos value it so much, and how did they get it? First, the Philippines is naturally rich in gold. Even today, the country has significant gold deposits, particularly in Mindanao, the Cordillera region of Luzon, and parts of the Visayas. Ancient Filipinos mined this gold through placer mining, basically panning for gold in rivers and streams where natural erosion had washed gold particles from ore deposits. They also used simple shaft mining, digging into hillsides where gold veins were visible. It wasn't industrial-scale mining like today, but it was effective enough to produce significant quantities. Spanish colonial records mention Filipino miners producing gold that was then traded regionally. But gold wasn't just about wealth in the modern sense. In ancient Filipino society, gold served multiple functions. It was a symbol of status and power. Datus and nobles wore gold jewelry to display their rank. The more gold you wore, the higher your status. Some Spanish accounts describe Filipino leaders so covered in gold jewelry they literally clinked when they walked. Gold was also used in religious and ceremonial contexts. Many of the Surigao pieces show Hindu-Buddhist religious imagery, suggesting they were used in rituals or as offerings. Gold had spiritual significance, not just material value. Gold served as a form of currency in trade. While ancient Filipinos didn't have coined money in the modern sense, gold had inherent value that everyone recognized. It could be traded for goods, used to pay debts, or given as bride price in marriages. And perhaps most importantly, gold was art. Ancient Filipinos created gold objects, not just because they were valuable, but because they were beautiful. The craftsmanship itself was a source of pride and a demonstration of cultural sophistication. Now let's talk about how they actually made these incredible objects, because the techniques are fascinating. Ancient Filipino goldsmiths used several sophisticated methods. The most basic was hammering. Gold is one of the most malleable metals. You can hammer it incredibly thin without it breaking. Filipino craftspeople hammered gold into sheets, then cut and shaped these sheets into jewelry and ornaments. But they went far beyond simple hammering. They mastered granulation, the technique I mentioned earlier, where tiny gold spheres are fused onto a surface. To do this, you need to heat the gold to exactly the right temperature. Ancient goldsmiths used charcoal fires with blowpipes to control temperature precisely. The fact that they could do this consistently shows deep understanding of metallurgy. They also used filigree, creating intricate designs from fine gold wire. The wire was drawn through progressively smaller holes until it was incredibly thin, then twisted, curled, and soldered into decorative patterns. Some of the Surigao pieces show filigree work so fine you need magnification to see the individual wires. Lost wax casting was another technique they employed. This involves creating a model of the desired object in wax, covering it in clay, then heating it until the wax melts out, leaving a hollow mold. Molten gold is poured into this mold, and when it cools, you break away the clay to reveal the golden object. The Hindu-Buddhist figurines from Surigao were likely made this way. Repoussé and chasing. These are techniques where you hammer gold from behind to create raised designs, then refine those designs from the front with specialized tools. This creates three-dimensional imagery on flat gold surfaces. They also knew how to alloy gold with other metals. Pure gold is actually quite soft, so mixing it with copper or silver creates harder, more durable alloys. Different alloys produce different colors, from the reddish tint of copper-gold alloys to the paler color of silver-gold mixes. The tools they used were simple by modern standards: stone hammers, bamboo punches, shell scrapers, and basic metal implements. But in skilled hands, these simple tools created masterpieces. The Philippines as land of gold. Ancient Chinese texts referred to Luzon as Liu Sung, or Luzon of the Golden Sands. Arab traders knew the Philippines as a source of gold. Why did these foreign merchants associate the Philippines so strongly with gold? Because the Philippines was a major gold supplier in ancient Asian trade networks. Chinese traders came to the Philippines specifically to buy gold, trading silk, porcelain, and iron for Filipino gold and other products. This trade was so significant that it's mentioned in Chinese historical records dating back to the Song dynasty, around 1000 CE. Arab merchants sailing the Indian Ocean trade routes also knew about Filipino gold. Some scholars believe that the legendary land of Ophir, mentioned in ancient texts, a mysterious gold-rich land, might actually refer to the Philippines or parts of Southeast Asia, including the Philippines. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they were astonished by the amount of gold they saw. Miguel López de Legazpi, who established the first permanent Spanish settlement in 1565, wrote detailed accounts describing Filipino nobles wearing elaborate gold jewelry. Spanish records mention that even common people wore gold ornaments. One Spanish chronicler wrote that he saw a chieftain whose armor was partly made of gold, wearing gold necklaces, bracelets, and anklets, with gold-hilted weapons. The Spanish had come to the Philippines looking for the Spice Islands, but they found something else valuable: gold and the skilled craftspeople who could work it. This abundance of gold and skilled goldsmiths had a tragic consequence. The Spanish immediately began extracting Filipino goldsmiths to work in their American colonies. Filipino craftsmen were sent to Mexico to work in Spanish gold and silver workshops. Their skills were exploited to enrich the colonial powers. Many ancient gold artifacts were also melted down by the Spanish. They didn't care about the artistic or historical value, they just wanted the raw gold. This is why discoveries like the Surigao Treasure are so precious. They survived the melting pot. Other gold discoveries. Surigao wasn't the only significant gold find in the Philippines. Let me tell you about some other incredible discoveries. In the Butuan area of northeastern Mindanao, archaeologists have found numerous gold artifacts, including death masks, thin sheets of gold placed over the faces of deceased nobles. These gold death masks are rare in Southeast Asian archaeology, making the Butuan finds particularly significant. The National Museum has a collection of gold jewelry from various parts of the Philippines, including an impressive gold kinara sash, a belt or sash decorated with kinara figures from Hindu-Buddhist mythology. The craftsmanship rivals anything from the great civilizations of India or Java. In the Cordillera region of northern Luzon, indigenous peoples have traditions of gold mining that go back centuries. Some of these communities still practice small-scale gold mining using traditional methods. Their oral histories speak of ancestors who worked gold long before the Spanish arrived. There's also the Agusan image, a golden statue found in Agusan del Sur in 1917. It depicts a female figure, possibly a Buddhist or Hindu deity, and weighs about 4 pounds. It's one of the largest pre-colonial gold artifacts found in the Philippines. Archaeological surveys of ancient burial sites throughout the archipelago consistently find gold artifacts, rings, beads, small ornaments. Even sites that aren't considered particularly wealthy often have some gold items, suggesting that gold ownership was relatively widespread in ancient Filipino society. What all these discoveries tell us is that Surigao, as spectacular as it is, wasn't unique. Gold craftsmanship was practiced throughout the ancient Philippines. Different regions had their own styles, their own techniques, their own artistic traditions. This was a widespread cultural practice, not isolated genius. So why does ancient Filipino goldwork matter today? First, it destroys the colonial narrative that Filipinos were primitive before European contact. You can't create the Surigao Treasure without sophisticated metallurgical knowledge, artistic vision, and cultural sophistication. These artifacts prove that ancient Filipinos were world-class craftspeople. Second, it shows the Philippines' deep integration into ancient Asian trade networks. The Hindu-Buddhist imagery on some pieces shows cultural exchange with India and Java. The fact that Chinese traders specifically sought Filipino gold shows economic importance. The Philippines wasn't isolated, it was connected. Third, it's a source of national pride. Modern Filipinos can look at these artifacts and see what their ancestors created. It's tangible proof of cultural achievement that survived centuries of colonization. And finally, it's a reminder of what was lost. For every Surigao treasure that survived, how many were melted down? How many artifacts are gone forever, destroyed for their raw material? We'll never know the full extent of ancient Filipino artistic achievement because so much was deliberately destroyed. Today, Filipino jewelers and artists are reviving ancient techniques. They study the Surigao pieces, experiment with traditional methods, and create new works inspired by ancient designs. The tradition isn't dead, it's being reborn. Tomorrow, in episode 5, we're going back to that copper plate we mentioned in episode 1, the Laguna Copperplate Inscription. We're going to dive deep into what it actually says, what it reveals about ancient Filipino society, and why a single piece of metal changed everything we thought we knew about Philippine history. You won't want to miss it. I'm Amit. This is Mythos Amit Raj, and remember, gold doesn't just represent wealth. It represents vision, skill, and the human desire to create beauty that lasts through the ages. If you're amazed by ancient Filipino goldwork, hit that like button. Subscribe to Mythos Amit Raj. We've got 26 more episodes exploring this incredible civilization. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode. Drop a comment. Have you seen any of these gold artifacts in person? What surprised you most about ancient Filipino craftsmanship? I love hearing your thoughts. And share this video with anyone interested in ancient art, archaeology, or the hidden achievements of Asian civilizations. Let's spread the word about these incredible discoveries. See you for episode 5. Keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop appreciating the artistry of the past.